What the hell's going on, guys? We've got two mice review on the desk right now. I didn't expect this to be the case, but here we are. WLMouse had talked to me a while ago about sending one for review, and I totally forgot because it was a while ago, but here it is, and I've been playing on it, and it's delightful. It's so snappy and fast. It's great. And then we've also got the OP18K, which you guys know I've been talking about. And this mouse from Endgame Gear is incredibly high performing at $80. It's a great mouse. The fact that I'm holding up these two mice together and talking about them in the same way is a testament to what Endgame Gear did with their performance, because this mouse is like twice as expensive, the Beast X Mini. But with that said, let's get to talking about these mice. So first of all, guys, I mean, these mice, it's honestly a win no matter which way you look. Great performance from both. But let's talk about some of the things that I think are really cool. Like the OP18K, as I said, $80 price point, and you're getting so much with this. Endgame Gear really tried to maximize the performance with this mouse for the $80, and they succeeded like crazy. So the first thing that people might be turned off by is honestly the only thing you could possibly be turned off by, but you'd be wrong. It's the cable. Now, aesthetically, okay, turned off by it, fine. Having the cable, it's not going to look as good on your desk, but you will never have to charge your mouse. And if it's an 8K polling rate, usually the downside is that it's going to just eat the battery quicker. So you're going to get no issues with battery life because it's a cable. So it's always plugged in. Then you also have the benefit to know that the signal is going to be perfect. Now, the coating, fantastic as well. As you all know, I do not like putting grip tape on mice. So I really want the coating to be good and functional. I'm not a particularly sweating person. I'm not particularly not sweaty. And I've really enjoyed the coating of this mouse. It feels very grippy, actually. It feels very grippy. So big plus for that. Very high quality PTFE feet as well. Endgame Gear did not spare on the quality of the PTFE feet. So great job on that as well. And then additionally, you got hot swappable switches. I have some switch packs here that I can swap the switches with very easily just by, unscrewing this and just like going for it. Very easy to execute, and so that's great too. So that you can get the clicks that really feel good for you. So not to say that the default switches aren't great as well, which they are. The middle mouse button feels good as well. Like not my favorite, not the worst. For me, it's always a bit weird because with the fingertip grip, it's like kind of weird with like what finger I might be using to press it. So I really like buttons that can depress very easily on the mouse wheel. And this is not, I would say like it doesn't require high tension, but it doesn't require low tension. And I would definitely be someone that's more in the low tension preference spectrum, I suppose. Now, with all that said, now we have to talk about the shape. The shape's the most important part of this mouse, in my opinion. The shape is very special. Now, the thing that's special about it is that if you're someone that is either a fingertip or claw player, this gives you a lot of options. Because if you're a fingertip player like me, who likes to claw sometimes, because I do it to create stability. Because if I'm going to be tracking for bigger distances, so like there's someone flying in the air in deadlock, or just encircling me in Overwatch, whatever it is, like faster moving targets, or lots of like big tracking, you can't do that with wrist alone necessarily. Sends permitting, of course. And it's always better if you're doing a lot of tracking to be able to be aiming from a resetted or like neutral wrist position afterwards. So it's actually generally more beneficial, unless there's a lot of precision required, to try to track from the arm, even if you're a fingertip or wrist-based player, because you just get the ability after that big bit of tracking to then use your wrist or fingertips to make a micro correction or to do another flick or like whatever it is. It gives you more options to be a more consistent aimer. So having the ability, even as a fingertip player, to be able to plant these knuckles, like, fingertip, with the fingertip, you can see there's a gap hit right here, but I can plant the knuckles there very easily. It feels super comfortable to do it. It's like very minimal movement. And I still get I don't feel like my hand is like locked into the mouse in a way that's any more than just, oh, here's some extra stability, and I can take it off really easily, still get really great range of movement with my fingertips, and then like lock back in super comfortably. It's like it gives you that ability to do the hybrid switch up on those grips in a way that's very, very, very clean. And I was talking to Viscose about this, and she totally agreed with me that this is like one of the most special parts about the shape. And so I'm super blown away by that, because that's the downside that I get from small mice in general. So like the Starlight 12 shape, which is actually, we're going to talk about the Beast X Mini in a bit, but these shapes are very, very similar. And the issue I have with these shapes is stability. And so I have to figure out like, okay, in this shape, I'm going to be talking about how is that mitigated in this shape, or what they've done with the design of this mouse. Because with the Starlight 12, I love the shape, I love the size, I like very narrow, small mice for my fingertipping. But if I need to go into that more stable mode, this mouse feels very unstable to me when I try to switch into that grip. There's much more of a distance on the hump to kind of get to that point. And then once I'm getting to this point, if I now start to like fingertip away, because like there's such a big difference, it then creates like more instability with my fingertipping. It's hard to explain on the spot in this way, but that's definitely an issue I have with the Starlight 12. And I do think they like, I don't know if they intentionally address that, but this mouse does feel really good from some of my gripes with the Starlight 12, which we'll go into in a second. So OP1, the all-rounder nature of this mouse, the all-rounderness, I don't know how to exactly phrase that, but it's great. You can use it for a variety of different grips. So I have 18x9 hands. If any of what I said resonates with you, this will be a great mouse because again, great coating, great grip. You can hold this mouse in a variety of different ways. Like if you want to like actually palm it a bit more and you have smaller hands, because of the hump, that's actually going to feel pretty comfortable because you're going to feel like the mouse actually fills your hand a bit more. If you're coming from more of a claw point of view or more of a fingertip point of view, you can also work with this mouse as well. It's so versatile as a small mouse option. Great performance for the price. 10 out of 10 to be honest for me. I don't know what a downside would be for this mouse. It's fantastic, and the very fact that you can hot swap the switches also means that you can kind of optimize that a bit. Like the only complaint I have is how for me I would like the middle mouse button to be slightly easier to depress. That's it. That's it. But I don't really. It's not a deal breaker for me. I don't really honestly care about that very much at all because pressing the middle mouse button is not like an issue. And if it was an issue, I could just rebind the thing. If it was like a really big issue, just rebind whatever it is that I would have on that button. Look at the shape compare for you guys so that we can kind of see some of how the dimensions are broken down. You can kind of see how the hump actually works because you've got a mouse that's very similar in size to the Starlight 12 small. So 60 width, 61 width here, the 2mm difference ultimately on the length. And then in terms of the height, pretty similar as well. It's the hump that makes a difference. It's like these 2mm or so of difference in the hump that make the difference in terms of the height of these two shapes. So it's very similar, but it's got these tweaks that make it a way more all-rounded mouse with a great feel. And they still managed to get 51 grams again, because obviously you don't have to have the battery in the mouse because you've got the wire as well. So you kept the weight low. But I think of all of these mice, I think the coating on the OP1 is the best. So that is really grippy and nice. So ultimately, really interesting how this hump change really creates a lot of extra stability. Okay, so let's, as we have this up, let's look at this real quick. So you can see that the Beast X Mini is like identical almost to the Starlight 12. It's a little bit less weight. It's a little bit thinner. So this is more narrow. I love this. This is really awesome. Now, I think if I bring in the MZ1, I think the MZ1 is it 58 as well? Let's see. No, it's 59. Oh, it's close, 58.5. So, okay, so I love this about the MZ1. The MZ1 is the most narrow mouse that I've used, and I love that. The MZ1 also it slants inwards slightly, and this mouse doesn't as much, but this mouse has better coating as well. So it actually feels quite grippy, and it's less weight, quite a lot less weight. It's much less weight. It's almost half actually. So because of that, it also means you need less tension to actually hold this mouse, which increases stability. And normally I like the slanting sides of the mouse. Like on the MZ1, you won't be able to see it super well here, but I guess you can kind of see it. You can see how it kind of slants inwards. So when you're actually gripping the mouse on the sides, you can kind of pull up against the inward slant, and that gives you a bit of extra control for minimal tension. And that's really important. You want to have the least tension possible, but the most control possible. And so, if you grip a mouse really hard, you're going to get a lot of tension. So you can really grip the mouse and keep it in one place, but you're losing a lot of control because of the high tension. So you want really low tension, but high control return. And so with this mouse, I've got to feel like, okay, this actually feels really nice because it's very narrow. And for me, that's really nice with smaller hands. And I love that for my flicks and my fingertip movements. And it doesn't have the slant, but because it's so light and the coating's really grippy, it actually doesn't make much of a difference. And I will say too, you can get a version of this mouse that doesn't have the solid sides. For me, that's a no-no. The solid sides for me are really important. And speaking from experience, The honeycomb here on the Starlight 12 is, I just absolutely hate it. I mean, I guess some people maybe think it looks really cool, but from a performance point of view, the honeycomb feels horrible. If you were to, I don't want to put grip tape on, but if you were to put even very minimal grip tape on, either you have to have thicker grip tape so you're not feeling these holes, because these holes feel horrible without the grip tape and they're very slippery, or it's the case that you're going to have very thin grip tape, so you're not adding a lot of like width to the mouse, but then you're going to feel the holes anyway. So it's just like, man, this just sucks. This is not a good situation. So you kind of avoid all of that with this. So I love that about this mouse. Now, another benefit to this mouse that I really enjoy is that we have extremely responsive on-RON switches. So really good clicks. This might be the best clicks that I've had on a mouse with stock switches that I can remember. It feels really, really good. I don't know if you can like hear anything here. I don't know. People, that's what tech reviewers do, don't they? They'll like get a mic to the clicks and we click away and it's all nice and stuff. Don't have all that tech, but I do have a microphone, so we'll see if that had a similar effect. So switches feel really responsive. They sound really great. It feels like I need very minimal effort to actually click, and it actually has enabled much better performance on some of the flicking that I am doing in games. So that's something that's a big plus. Additionally, because of the weight, I am feeling like that adds extra responsiveness because it allows me to, again, keep tension low, which keeps control high. So when I'm in really pressured moments, I've actually felt like this makes a difference. So this is another big benefit I've noticed, and why this mouse feels very fun for me to play on, because when I'm in intense scenarios, I feel like I have more control, where I can kind of flick around very quickly. I get really responsive clicks for very low pressure, so I can react faster that way. I can react faster as well because, again, with less tension, I have more controls, which gives you more time. More control often equals more time, because the more control you have, the less wasted movement that you have, and so you can just, if you know what to react to, your movement's more efficient. Well, you're going to be able to connect shots more easily. So. Okay, let's talk about these versus each other. What is the trade-off? So the major trade-off for me between these two mice is that stability element for the tracking. I need to stress test the tracking more on this mouse because overall this shape still feels pretty good. Obviously, you are getting a situation where this shell, obviously to make sure that you can keep that weight down, you've got these big gaps and holes. So how does that feel when you're kind of making contact with the knuckles, the inner knuckles of your hand here? Well, it doesn't feel like amazing necessarily, but again, because you don't have to put much weight on the mouse because it's so light to kind of move it around. So it's actually not the end of the world because my knuckles are kind of touching like this part. So it doesn't feel too uncomfortable. It doesn't feel amazing, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable. Like it's not something that feels like I would complain about it. The major issue is what I talked about with the Starlight 12, which is that when you're making contact with the ring part of your hand, is it like going to create an unstable grip basically? Because as you switch between these two grips, is it going to be unstable? Well, again, the low weight actually helps to prevent that because generally speaking, the low weight and the coating, because when your fingers are planted wherever they're supposed to be on the mouse, you can keep them in the same place. So that's nice. So you can switch between these like fairly easily, but it is a pretty big difference in terms of how much you have to move your knuckles to do it. So that's not necessarily ideal, but ultimately it feels way better for me in terms of the flicking. So I get more flicking from this and more like a bit more control on the flicks and the micro corrections when I'm like in intense scenarios. So that makes it feel more fun to play with. And then with this mouse, I get overall way more stability and consistency across a wider variety of aiming categories. So that's kind of the trade-off that I have to stress test these two on. Do I want to prefer this one because I get to maximize flicks and control in that way so much? Or do I want to index more for the tracking benefits that I get? Because when we're thinking about tracking again, if you're tracking bigger movements, then you want to be able to keep your wrist in a neutral position. You don't want to be like tracking like this basically, because if you get to like the end of your ROM and then suddenly you got to like try to do a micro correction or like flick somewhere else, that's not an advantageous position to be in. But if you can track instead like this, and now something else happens and I can like do a quick micro correction with my wrist, or I can do a quick micro correction with my fingers, or I can, essentially have a position where I'm way more versatile. So having really good tracking because of the extra stability here, because again, you get that connection that feels really good. You can kind of lock it through the forearm. So now you're kind of aiming with your arm. And that feels really comfortable. So guys, it's very hard for me to actually figure out which of these I like more. They both have great pluses. Right now I'm playing more on the Beast X Mini to stress test it, because I really want to find out like how fun is it really, and it has been super fun, and can I feel comfortable with the tracking. And I'm going to start comparing my tracking scores and my performance on both of these mice and see like how different it is, and can I make up for some of it with this, because I just really want to keep using this right now because it feels more fun, to be honest. It feels more fun, and part of it is how narrow it is. I've noticed that for me with mice that are very narrow, I get overall a more feeling of control with my flicks. And so I tend to get like better intuitive flicks, those moments when you just like, your brain just like notices something and flicks to it. It just feels like I am just a bit faster. It's hard to explain, but I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on these two mice. They've been super fun. If you have any thoughts in the comments below about these two mice or other mice that would be like fun for me to test, let me know. And I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on these two excellent mice.